What's up, everyone? This is Clint Lowery, and you're listening to Epic Footnote.
Hey, everyone. What's going on? Welcome to There Goes My Hero. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
If you haven't joined us before, this is one of our 2 new interview series, and we got a couple of them in the box now. And, ever since we've been kind of locked away in quarantine, we've gotten a chance to speak to a lot of really cool rockers, and this one is no exception. I've seen this gentleman many a time on stage live. Looking forward to seeing him again once we can actually get back out there. Zach, who do we talk to?
Well, none other than Clint Lowery from Sevendust. And it was really awesome timing, too, because Clint surprise released a solo EP, Grief and Distance, and there was a lot of personal attachment to it for him with his mother passing away recently, and also with everything going on with just COVID-19. So it was really exciting to just kind of find out a little bit more about everything that went into the EP. Also kind of interesting to learn how much recording his own solo material influenced Sevendust's new forthcoming album. And then also kind of segueing into just some of his fears for challenges that the band might be facing once they get ready for the album cycle, which he teased could be coming any day now with an announcement. And then, of course, I know, Matt, you were so ecstatic when he told us that he wanted to talk about Steve Vai and meeting him for the first time. Yeah, that was
a really cool part of the conversation.
And it's funny because I know he's a great guitar player, but you don't necessarily think Clint and Steve Vai are similar in styles necessarily, but kind of just goes to show you how influential Steve Vai is to just the instrument itself. And then a little bonus point too, just knowing that he met and jammed with Steve Vai in Morristown, our neck of the woods at the Mayo Performing Arts Center. That was a little special treat for Matt and I. I've seen many shows there, so
that's probably about 10 to 15 minutes from where we live. So that was really cool.
Not joking. There's maybe even a chance we were at the show. We don't even remember. It's been that long ago. But so it was just a really fun chat, and he's such a down-to-earth guy. Check out part 1 of our chat with Clint, and then stay tuned for part 2, where we get to play a little game of 2 Truths and a Lie with him. So enjoy. Let us know what you think on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote, and thanks for listening.
See you on the other side.
Thanks so much again for just chatting with us. Wanted to talk first about the EP, and it's awesome that, you got to surprise fans with it. And obviously it was produced during a very challenging time, to put it mildly, both with everything that's going on in the world, but also you personally with the loss of your mother, which our condolences again for that.
Thank you.
And so I think, just curious, with everything going on, what was the most challenging part about making this EP, both from a production standpoint and also from an emotional level?
From the production standpoint, that was probably the most challenging because there were obvious limitations. There was going to be no drummer. There was going to be no group setting at all. So, and that's fine. I thought that, finding a place to do vocals, I was actually going to track everything here, but with the kids and everyone at home, it was really hard. So I went to a local studio here and did vocals and acoustic, but it was a little challenging. It wasn't too bad. I found a cool place. It was just an engineer and myself, and we did the foundation of everything. And then Brian from 10 Years, I had a bunch of programming elements that there were basic keys and piano and things like that. Very moody stuff, but I gave it to him. I'm like, hey, could you kind of dress this up a little bit? Because he does really cool work. Been in contact with Brian over the years, over a few different projects. But so he was really into the idea of just kind of giving me more of a electronical musical landscape. So he was awesome to work with. He was sitting home the same way. We're sitting here, we're all, as musician artists, we're trying to find ways to stay creative and productive. And he was like, oh, dude, I'm bored. I'm not touring right now. Please send me stuff. So it helped him and I. But the challenge emotionally, I was just very thankful to have the outlet to write music. And once the team agreed it would be cool to do an EP, I was just like, okay, now I have something to focus on and just kind of escape in that. That's always fun for me. The challenge is always, is this cool enough? Is this sincere enough? Is this authentic? Is this going to be something that is an expansion on God Bless the Renegades? All those things are the struggle. But the actual doing, the process of recording and writing it, I love.
So then would you say that probably the most rewarding part about creating under such circumstances is that you had a outlet to
absolutely
grieve, to share this emotion?
We were laughing. I was laughing with my label guy, one of my buddies there, and my manager. Like, I have to have something. I just can't sit there and twiddle my tongue. I was really missing my mom's situation was really brutal. Watching her pass, I'd never been with someone watching them leave this earth, let alone your mother. It's a whole different thing. So, yeah. I just really needed it. They knew I needed it, but it's one of those things that it's always been the escape. The music part has always been the escape, and it's always going to be what I lean on when I need. It's my job, thank God, but at the same time, it's a passion too, man.
I'm curious. Yeah. I know that your mother actually came from a musical background herself.
Yeah.
And knowing her passing and how, it's such a tough loss that I can't even imagine. Did anything that she did musically, whether it was intentional or not, influence how you created the EP?
The actual EP, outside of the lyrical content being, involving her, she was a huge influence. She was, I guess, musically, her just being a musician and our discussions. She was a fan, and I could talk to her. It wasn't like one of those where I was a kid and talking to my parents saying, "Oh, you don't know." She knew music. She knew integrity about it. She knew oh, I don't dig that chorus. I don't think it's I could have these conversations, which was the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
She was real hardcore too, man. If something, she wasn't feeling something, she'd let you know for sure. But that was cool. I mean, musically we had kind of different tastes, but at the same time, she's the one that pushed me to sing. She was always I was like, I don't think I got the best voice, Mom. She's like, who cares? Tom Petty can't sing. She's like, you have a believable, Tom Petty. She's like, imagine him doing the national anthem. It would probably suck, but it's Tom Petty. So what he did and what he said and how he sang it was very believable. So she was like, you have a good voice, but that's not all that there is. You have other things. So she can help me kind of break through the insecurities in that way.
It kind of goes back to how the saying that your first and biggest fan will always be your mother.
Yeah, it was, man. And it was hard. Is this really cool, Mom? Is this, Mom. She's
Mom, what do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. She liked it. I was like, Mom, you're so in touch. And when she didn't, I'm like, you have no idea.
That's awesome.
She's good.
So I know that you went straight from working on God Bless the Renegades into sessions with Sevendust. Now, in the creation process between God Bless the Renegades and the Sevendust stuff, how did that actually help the creative process for whatever's coming new from Sevendust?
First of all, I was talking to Morgan. He was like, man, you're going to be burned out. You're not going to want to go do a record. And I'm like, I'm actually, I said, I know it just sounds like I'm saying it, but I was on such a roll creatively. I wasn't burned out. I don't want to say that God Bless the Renegades was me hashing out ideas, but some of the ideas I wrote for that record ended up being Sevendust songs. I was working with Elvis, and so we had a better connection. We didn't get a ton of one-on-one time when I was doing the All I See Is War record with him. We were, but it was a group setting. It'd be me and then John and me. So Elvis and I got a really good connection. So that bled over into the Sevendust record. It was because it was we had this really chummy trust, which is huge with a producer. I feel like I can produce. I've helped produce Sevendust records, but he really earned my trust and my respect. So it was this really good, healthy relationship that I had with him going into that. And we were talking about the Sevendust record while I was doing it. I'm like, what do you want? What kind of songs do you want? And he's like, I want you to bring this groove and this, So we, in between takes of the God Bless Renegades, we're hashing out Sevendust ideas.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I've never really even told anyone that, but there were songs that I had. I'm like, man, I really want to do this. He's like, that's a Sevendust song. I'm like, God. I said, that's cool though. I said, but because I knew we were going to be doing it. I didn't know we were going to record that soon, but it was literally I did the record, did a tour, we went in the studio for Sevendust. But
good multitasking.
Yeah, man. It was a trip.
So now, with that being said, also, there's a ton of things going on in the world right now. You'd have to be a dummy not to know that. But, with everything that's taking place around the world, a lot has been impacting the music industry directly. How has Sevendust been impacted directly, and how do you foresee, what's been going on impacting the band, whether it's, new music, the way you're going to be doing the new, not touring the new album, but promoting the new album? How does that affect you guys?
The only saving grace with Sevendust is we knew we were going to be kind of dark throughout some of 2020. We knew we weren't really going to come out and fully release and start the cycle until the fall anyway. We were going to do a few shows. There was an Australian thing. There was a few things we were going to do in the summer, but ultimately we were planning to be off anyway. I was going to do a lot of touring for my thing, but that's kind of gone now. But so we were already kind of built to do that, but there was a lot of things that we were kind of planning on doing in September and October, and so everything kind of shifted a little bit. So it didn't hit us like the way that it's hitting these other artists that had tours on the books, have merchandise, printed out, crew guys depending on that paycheck, all the things that I've seen a lot of my peers struggle with. It's devastating to that. The more that this unfolds, the worse that I feel it's going to get, because of these smaller venues that are in our realm, the mid-level venues, the 800, 500 seater to 1,500. Those are the ones that are real risk right now. We're going to be okay. We're not the richest. We don't have a lot of money. We tour to make survival, but the problem is going to be when we start, are people going to come? And
that's the next question.
Are there going to be places to play? There's going to be a huge amount of these venues that we played, and then now they're talking about cutting, getting extra insurance and taking smaller guarantees. And it's going to be a challenge that everyone's going through. So we're not going to be this. It's kind of like we're going to all figure it out together.
Right. Now, you also mentioned with your EP that you were going to be, or your other album too, that you were going to be doing some touring. Is any of that going to get replanned, or has that just been completely postponed because Sevendust might be ramping up?
Well, the tricky thing has always been working around Sevendust's schedule to do anything for any of us. So I had a good little call. It took a long time to plan it out, but I knew that Sevendust was going to be dark and I was going to be able to do this. So I wasn't going to do like 2 years touring. I was going to do like 6 months, 8 months. But right now, I have to play more shows. I just don't feel like I did enough just for me, whether people want to see them or not.
Right.
I want to cut my teeth more. So hopefully with Sevendust being such a cool, supportive band, John's got something coming out. Morgan does. Maybe we'll do something where we all kind of get up and support our little projects for a tour and make some kind of a presentation like that. Would be cool, so we can get that out. So there's never going to be a more supportive fan base than a Sevendust. So I can get up there and automatically have a connection with those people. And so maybe we'll do that just so we can keep those things alive. But Sevendust, when that starts, that's the thing.
Right.
Maybe a little Sevendust convention, literally everyone's little projects and Sevendust Fest or something.
Well, I was laughing with Morgan yesterday because he's got his thing coming out, and I was like, man, these are like the Marvel standalone movies, man. Like we have these things where like the Hulk and Thor kind of mixed, because I wrote a lot of music on Morgan's EP that's coming out, and we're always constantly collaborating, him and I. So yeah, not that we're anywhere near as cool as the Marvel universe, but it's like we're doing our ghetto version of that,
That's really cool though.
Yeah, and then the Avengers movie being the Sevendust.
So speaking of Sevendust, anything on a release date of a new album, or when should we expect like maybe a single?
It's all done. The record's done. We've been sitting on it. It's going to be announcements coming real soon over the next month. 2 months, you're going to start seeing the pre-sales and the single and those kind of things are going to start happening. So, real soon in the summer, I would say, I hate to be one of those ambiguous, like, I don't know, I can't say.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah. I know people get mad when you say things prematurely, but I like you guys, so I'm going to tell you.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Now I'm blushing.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's even more tough. Of course, you had to keep tight-lipped even beforehand, but like, who knows? Everything keeps changing. The big question of what if, and no one knows the answer. I can only imagine the frustration you have of everything.
Well, I mean, the biggest problem is no one wants to release a record and not play shows to support it. But then we're like, we don't want to sit here and just sit on this record. And people still need entertainment. They deserve entertainment. They're going to listen to records. If in worst case scenario, they really know the record well before we go out on tour, you know? It'll be a classic rock record. We'll release the record, and 20 years later, when that pandemic lifts, we'll play shows.
The first tour will be the 20th anniversary tour in support of the album. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. This new record.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that's getting ready to come out 20 years. I mean, there's a good chance some of us will not be alive at that point.
Oh, well, let's not get too morbid,
yeah.
But
yeah, knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
It is 2020 after all.
Yeah,
exactly, man.
Yeah, so, with There Goes My Hero, we talked to artists about getting the chance to meet their heroes. We know you wanted to talk about Steve Vai. I'm curious, how did you first discover Steve Vai?
Growing up in the 80s, guitar player, shredder, Steve Vai came to me. Someone had introduced me to Flexible, the EP that he did. I was like searching out any and all guitar players that were, there was the Eddie Van Halens and the obvious, like, Zakk Wylde did the first No Rest for the Wicked record. So like I was all about any of those guys. And Steve Vai was like the quirkiest. He shredded, but he had this Zappa element to him. And he was just a very unique guitar player. So that Flexible record is the first one I heard, and I was blown away by it. And I actually started learning when I started becoming a serious guitar player. The Attitude song was like the holy grail idea. And he used it's just such a quirky guitar player. And I always thought that the personality of his style and his chops and everything about him was everything that I wanted to be as a guitar player. So, in my bedroom, one of my buddies saying, "Hey, this guitar player Steve Vai is the best," and it was always, "No, he's not. So and so's the best. No, he's not." Ronnie LaTeca from TNT, all those shredder guys. I was into all that stuff.
What about him still resonates with you?
When I saw him on the night that I'll tell you about when we actually met, I was watching him, and I've grown very, you get older, you get cynical, you get jaded. It's hard to watch a whole entire concerts. I was just watching him play in person. Of all the things that I've loved about him, he's just built to play guitar. He is everything that. Just from the mechanics, from his body type, from his soul, from his musical choice, he is just at one with that instrument. And he has found ways to keep it exciting. The entire show is entertaining. I'm like, if there's no singing involved as a guitar player, it's just like, oh man, it's a yawn fest. I can only watch so much shredding, but his dynamics and the way that he feeds the energy and builds things and just the shred. But yet the melody and the compositions and it's complex. It's progressive. It's just so many things. So he's just got all of it, man. He's got everything.
Yeah, and I really feel that way about Vi myself. One of my favorite videos, and this kind of might be, one of those like, oh, of course it's your favorite. It's the most popular song. But the video that he did with the orchestra, and he did For the Love of God, is one of my favorite music videos of all time. I love that.
Same here.
So for you, what are like your top 3 Vi songs?
I would have to say Attitude song just because of that. I would have to say For the Love of God. It's almost impossible not to address that song, that solo, that whole. He had a hit single with a melody, it was an actual hit, but he kills it at the end of the song. And man, it's the third one. That's like such a difficult question, man. Like there's so many.
I gotta ask the tough ones.
yeah, totally. There was one that was, what's the stuff that he did with Roth is just unbelievable. Like there's so many songs. There's just Damn Good Times, the acoustic song that he did with him. It's such a harmonically and all the quirkiness of that riff, and to have Dave sing over that. I don't know, man. As far as the third, man, that would be so hard.
It changes every day.
It changes every day. I'm a huge fan of just his older catalog, but there's so many things he's doing now that he finds these low grooves. I mean, so many things were born from his creative mind. You know, Korn's that whole bracket, and all these new people playing with 7/8 strings. I mean, that was all him, man.
It's funny because, like, the new metal era gets like kind of criticized for the lack of solos, but it really changed the way that the music sounded, and a big part of that, as you mentioned, was Steve Vai and his approach to the instrument.
Yeah, and the Korn guys taking that and going a complete left turn.
Yeah,
I would have ever done, but their stuff was brilliant too, the way they did it, and it was because of that extra string, and it kind of provoked a different sound, and then it kind of transitioned back over to shredding again, and here we are, everyone's playing solos again. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Back.
So now tell us about the first time you met Steve Vai.
Morgan had a relationship with the drummer Jeremy. Steve Vai had a bunch of near misses a bunch of times. I almost got to meet him, and I was at that point where I didn't want to meet my idol because I was terrified that he wouldn't be nice to me. You know, that would
yeah.
I met plenty of musicians that were not cool, and I was like, I'd see him in these different events. I'm like, I can't. I don't even want to meet him. I just want to keep my image of him. But then Morgan's like, dude, I met Steve, man. He's cool. He's so nice. I'm like, okay. Now, next opportunity. So we get invited by Jeremy to the show, and he obviously tour manager at the time was a friend of ours who worked with us. So we got really treated and like, oh, you guys are going to meet him. So my anxiety level was through the roof. And then they were like, well, Steve wants you to jam tonight. And
oh, wow.
The show was ruined for me. Because I knew at some point, and then he's going to I'm going to have to play with this guy that I've crossroads the whole thing. Like he's going to do this thing where they kind of jam, and he builds the song on the spot, and
no pressure. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well then I can hide amongst the band and just kind of hang on and just kind of find the groove. And I'm a good guitar player. I can hang, but I didn't have no idea that it was going to be a head-to-head situation. None at all. But even with that, I was just terrified. So the whole show, I'm sitting there watching his masterful playing. I'm like, I got to get up and play with him. It ruined the whole show because I was literally sweating. But then I was like, you know what? Who cares at this point? And
when and where was this?
This was in Jersey. I forget the small town. We were
Morristown, right? Because I think I've seen video of this. So we're actually like 15 minutes outside of Morristown, and that was in what, 2012?
I believe so. I forget which Sevendust record. I want to say Blackout the Sun, but we were there doing a record, and we got the invite to do it. So
wow, so literally, it's already nerve-wracking enough to meet him, but then upon first meeting, it's like, nope, now you have to get on stage, and try to hang.
Yeah. So do you want me to tell you what happened?
Yeah, please.
No, we don't have time for that.
Look at the time.
I didn't know if we were going to do like another question to build up to that.
No, please.
No, so we get up, someone comes, one of the handlers come out and get us, and we're like, okay, we're going to go up there, and Morgan's going to play drums, and they're like, oh, they asked John, what do you want to do? And John's like, John had nothing to do with it either, But he knew Steve was my guy, so he's like, they gave him some kind of a box thing, a xylophone thing, like you just sit here and occupy this. And we get on stage, and actually before we get on stage, Steve was like in the dressing room, like, oh, Clint, he knew my name. He's like, man, I thank you so much for the kind things you said in the press over the years. I'm like, and then he just immediately made us feel at home. We're laughing in the dressing room. I didn't want it. It was very important not to talk too much guitar because I know that's all everyone ever does. So we were talking about like what kind of watermelon we preferred, just all kinds of random things. But it was a very friendly conversation, and that was good enough, But then we're on stage. They call us up. I'm nervous. I occupy the other amazing guitar player that's there with him. I forget his name. So I'm like, get his guitar, and then so what they do is they ask people in the audience to go, give me a beat like with your mouth. And Eddie Trunk is like, boom, goodbye. So they build a song like that, and we start. And then Steve starts addressing the band. He's like, okay, we're going to do solo. We're going to go play in G, blues jam, and then we're going to do a solo in G. And Clint, you're going to take the solo in G. And I'm like, no. He said, we'll stay in A, or we'll stay in E. I'm like, okay, or whatever. So we determined the key that I'm gonna solo in, So we do the thing. Everything's cool. I'm like riding the wall because I'm insecure. So I'm just like hitting that wall and funking it out. And there's like video of this thing. So we're jamming and Steve starts soloing up. And then he looks at me and then I go, and hearing the progression of the band, I don't hear them transition. So I start in this other key that he had mentioned before he reverted back to the other. So I start, and the first few notes are wrong. And so Steve's like, his ear is unbelievable. So he looks, he's like, I'm going to have to bail this hack out, you know? Oh my God. And then I move, and I move over to G and start playing. He kind of relaxes and he walks up, and we're face to face. We're going back and forth. I throw out, I have like 3 or 4 like money licks. So I throw all those out. Like here. And I'm like, trying. And I'm like, there's one little thing I did. I'm like, crowd gets a little explosive. I'm like, okay, at least I'm not embarrassing myself. And then he just goes and he just starts manhandling me. So it's back and forth. And he takes it easy on me. And then we end up kind of climbing the neck and harming to get together. And I was thankful that all the improvisational skills that I've done over the years just allowed me to hang on and not be embarrassed myself, yet earn a little bit of his respect. But God, man, it was unbelievable, man. He was great after that. After I played, he was like, after the show, we talked a long time. It was great.